Hi there, I'm Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids. I'm a speech-language pathologist, also called a speech therapist, with 20 years experience helping little kids learn how to talk and helping their parents understand them a little bit better. And one thing that comes up an awful lot is this idea of natural consequences. And there are so many different places you can read about how to use natural consequences, or that you should use natural consequences. But I want to add a couple of different ideas to this. One is that if you don't know what developmental milestone is appropriate for your child, then you can't implement natural consequences, because the consequence has to be understandable to your child. And so I'm going to give you an example about what I mean in terms of developmental stages. So for a 2-year-old who takes off their coat and leaves it on the playground, there is no natural consequence, because the natural consequence is to you because developmentally a 2-year-old can't be expected to remember their coat if they take it off, right? But you have to know that, because otherwise you're at risk of punishing a 2-year-old for doing something that they really can't be expected to do. A 3-year-old, we're getting into some gray area there, but to the extent that we expect a 3-year-old to remember their coat, the natural consequence maybe is going to be that they have to be a little bit cold while you walk home from the park. But not that they're going to go without a coat all winter because they forgot it at the park, right? But again, that developmental milestone is your indicator about what the natural consequence is. Now, fast forward a few years to a 16-year-old who loses their coat. That natural consequence might be a choice between buying themselves a new coat and being cold. And there are millions of different sort of permutations about where that can go also, depending on the circumstances and all of this. But my point is, there's a developmental progression that happens, and the consequence that your child experiences has to be in some way, yes, natural, but also related to their developmental stage, right? And so with that in mind, the punishment has to fit the crime, right? So again, back to that 3-year-old who leaves their coat on the playground, the punishment is not that they're going to go without a coat all winter. We have to buy them a coat. And hopefully they won't lose it again, and maybe we pay more attention and help them pay more attention as well. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. The other thing that comes up with natural consequences tends to be toys and cleanup. And this is a really sticky area, I find, for parents, because they want to teach, we want to teach our kids to clean up. We want to teach them responsibility. We want to teach them that, you know, toys don't grow on trees, and that any number, you know, that we want them to be responsible and feel some ownership over their possessions. And so when our kids don't clean up, it can feel like the right natural consequence to say, okay, that toy is going away forever and it's never coming back. And I would argue that most of the time, unless you've got like a chronic abuser who's, you know, 7 or 8, most of the time the natural consequence is the toy goes away for a little bit and then it comes back. Because you want the natural consequence to be a lesson. You don't want it to be a source of anxiety about making mistakes. We want our kids to make mistakes, and we want them to learn from them. But what we don't want to do is instill this fear that if they make a mistake, something horrible will happen. And that's where I find sort of an outsized natural consequence can really instill some fear in a child who's not ready for it. And so, again, allowing your child to make a mistake, which is like the most excruciating thing ever, first of all, and yet required. But then allowing them to experience the consequence but not suffer from it, it's a fine line. So, yeah, just some thoughts about natural consequences. If you are having trouble with sort of understanding how developmental milestones fit into natural consequences, how positive discipline, which we talked about last week, fits in to natural consequences and sort of raising responsible and kids who have ownership of their possessions. I really encourage you to take a look at my Toddler Talk online program for parents. There are so many strategies in there on sort of ways to help your child become more responsible, ways to help your child experience natural consequences while still fostering their ability to explore and make mistakes. And so if this is something that you struggle with, and we all have, I encourage you to take a look. I'll include the link below. And until next time, I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.